Assalamu alaikum students, how are you all? I hope you are doing good, staying safe at home. So today we shall proceed with the next fifth supplementary, A Day in 2889 of an American journalist, written by Jules Verne. So this story explains the life on earth after 1,000 years and that the daily activities of a normal human will be assisted by machines. In this story, the office block of the Earth Herald, the world's largest newspaper, is illustrated during the year 2889. Now let's see some of the main characters of the story. Frances Bennett, managing editor of Earth Herald. Edith, wife of Frances Bennett. Cash, an astronomical reporter. Collie, he is also an astronomical reporter. Gandhini, it's a new planet found by the astronomical reporter. Finally, Earth Herald, world's largest newspaper. So these are the main characters of the story. Students, now let's see about the author Jules Verne. Jules Verne was born in 1828. He is a French novelist, poet, and playwright. His adventure novels are part of a series. He draws inspiration from his own sailing adventures. He is one of the most translated authors in the world. He has been called the father of science fiction, and he had developed a science fiction writing. More interesting, perhaps, in his place as a prophet or predictor of technology, which wasn't to be invented until long after his death. He is the man who predicted in 1863 about the internet. Paris in the 20th century depicts the details of modern life like skyscrapers, televisions, maglev trains, computers, and a cultural preoccupied with the internet. Students, now let's see some new words in this supplementary. Phonotelephonate, a means of transmitting and receiving both voice and picture for a personal conversation, which mean WhatsApp video calls, Skype, etc. Moving to the next one, Champs-Élysées. It's a prestigious avenue. Avenue means a place, commercial place in Paris, which is famous for the cafe, cinemas, and shopping malls, etc. The next one, phototelegrams. It's nothing but a telegraphic transmission including images, as I already discussed, like WhatsApp, etc. Jovians. Jovians means inhabitants of planet Jupiter. Now, how we human beings are the inhabitants of Earth, in the same way, Jovians are nothing but the inhabitants of planet Jupiter. The next one, inhabitants, a person or animal that lives in or occupies a place. So inhabitants means one who lives in a place is called inhabitants. The next one, Centropolis. In this story, the new name of New York in 2889. So the author, he himself changed the name of New York as Centropolis. How it could be in 2889. Okay. Next one, valet. A man's personal male attendant, like servant, who is responsible for his clothes and appearance. So valet is nothing but a man who is responsible for clothes and appearance and does all the activities of like a male servant. So these are some of the important glossaries of this supplementary. Students, now let's see the gist of the story. Assalamu alaikum students. Today we are going to see the supplementary, A Day in 2889 of an American journalist. This story is written by the author Jules Verne. He was a French poet, playwright, and novelist. He became very popular by his futuristic adventure novels. This lesson portrays on how people will live in fairyland of the 29th century. The writer visualizes the world 1,000 years later, a world of technological advancements where newspapers are not printed but spoken. This story completely speaks about the future and the new inventions. He is Francis Bennett, the managing editor of Earth Herald, the world's largest newspaper. Francis Bennett gets up one morning in a bad temper. Feeling lonely, he switched on the phono-telephoto. He saw his wife appear in the telephoto mirror, who was in France. His mood turned to a happier one after speaking to his wife. The room was a mechanized one, and the machine got him ready for his office. At workplace, he questioned one of the 10 astronomical reporters about the day's news. They had received phototelegrams from Mercury, Venus, and Mars. One of the scientists started working out some mechanical means of turning their satellite right round for getting signal. One of the astro founded the new planet Gandhini, and Bennett wanted to publish the news to the world about it. It was a time for his lunch at his office, and he and his wife had arranged to have lunch at the same time on a photo-telephoto. He had stopped domestic cooking and subscribed to the Society of Supplying Food at Home, and it was expensive. He then left by aerocar to Niagara for a work. He met his petitioners at Earth Herald. Among them was a young man who was ready to construct a human being without soul. A second inventor suggested that the town of Saf, 15 miles away from sea, could be transformed into a seaside resort. Bennett agreed to the project. Finally, the hectic day ended with a bath. This story portrays that life is sophisticated and a luxurious one, but life cannot be totally controlled by technology. Man should work individually and find new inventions which should not lead to his laziness but make him more active. Thank you. The story of A Day in 2889 of an American journalist convey to us that speaks about the people of the 29th century who live in fairyland. To them, all seemed natural. This story is about the world in the year 2889. It was written in 1889 by Jules Verne. The writer describes how he visualizes the world 1,000 years later, a world of technological advancements where newspapers are not printed but spoken. The story takes place in the office block of the managing editor of the Earth Herald, the world's largest newspaper. It's about how Francis Bennett spends his time at home and office with the technological advancements. Students, isn't it really interesting? Yes. Come, let's see the complete explanation of this supplementary. In this page, we are going to see about the Francis Bennett and his office. One early morning, Francis Bennett woke up with bad temper because his wife Edith had gone to Champs Elysees, which means it is a prestigious and a commercial place in Paris. So where his wife had been? She had been to Champs Elysees 8 days ago. So he switched on his photo-telephoto, whose wires led to the house he owned in the Champs Elysees. The telephone completed by the telephoto. Telephoto is nothing but like video calls, what we use now in WhatsApp, Zoom, etc. Bennett is really happy by using the telephoto because he could see his wife appear in the telephotic mirror. Her voice and face changed his mood. So that's all about this page. Let's see the glossary. Surfeited means excessive and marvel means wonder. Moving to the next page. He went into his mechanized dressing room within 2 minutes, washed, he was shaved, he was shod, dressed and buttoned from top to toe on the threshold of his office by the robot. The day's work started at the reporter's room. His 1,500 reporters with their telephones were speaking the news received from the 4 quarters of the earth to subscribers. Besides telephone, all reporters have commutators which allow communication on telephotic line with visual sights. So Bennett questioned one of the 10 astronomical reporters, that is Cash, about the recent discoveries in the stellar world. Cash replied that it was phototelegrams from Mercury, Venus and Mars and nothing they received from Jupiter, since the Jovians is nothing but the inhabitants of the Jupiter. Okay, we are human beings, that is inhabitants of Earth. Likewise, Jovians are nothing but inhabitants of Jupiter. So he received everything, all the updation from Mercury, Venus and Mars, but he did not receive anything from Jupiter because the Jovian signals could not be understood. He said, who said? Cash. He added that even results from the moon wasn't possible and one can't blame optical science, though moon was 600 times nearer than Mars. Let's quickly recall the glossary in this page. Valet means man servant. Threshold means doorstep. Commutators attached. Stellar related to star. So here we have used stellar earth means related to star. It is like a star. Optical science branch of physics that studies electromagnetic radiation. Moving to the next page. Another reporter named Corley, what he said was, he just simply said that they can rotate the moon. Okay, that they can turn the moon around and find out what happened to the signal. Is it possible, students, how to turn the moon? But in that story, they have mentioned that everything is possible with the help of technology. So, very simply they have informed, the author has written that they can simply turn the moon. From then on, the scientists of the Bennett factory started working on turning the satellite, that is, turning the moon. One of the Earth Herald's astronomers had just determined the elements of new planet Gandhini. So, one of the astronomers has found that there is a new planet named Gandhini, and Bennett was delighted at his accuracy. So, he just mentioned that the distance is around 12,841, 348, 284, 628 meters and 7 decimeters far from our planet. So Bennett was very happy with such accurate report of the new astronomers, Earth Herald's astronomer. So he wanted the reporters to pass on the news to the subscribers immediately. Who are the subscribers? The one who always watch the news or always regularly read the newspaper are called subscribers. So the broad gallery for such a journal as the Earth Herald brought in an average of $3 million daily. So when the clock struck 12, the director of the Earth Herald sat in a rolling armchair and reached his dining room half a mile away. The table was laid before him and in front of him was the phonotelephone. The couple had arranged to have lunch at the same time, see and talk by phonotelephone. So Francis Bennett was one of the subscribers to Expensive Society for supplying food to the home with 1,000 varieties through pneumatic tubes. He was finishing his coffee in solitude when Mrs. Bennett appeared in the telephone screen after work. So after finishing his lunch, he saw an aero car which was waiting for him. Aero car is nothing but just a car which can fly. Okay. So he just travelled to Niagara, where he had an important work by aero car at a speed of about 400 miles an hour. So below him were the towns with moving pavements which carry the wayfarers along the streets. He returned by way of Philadelphia, Boston and New York to Centropolis, where his aerocar put him down about 5 o'clock. The waiting room of the Earth Herald was crowded, awaiting Bennett to return. In the Earth Herald, many people were waiting for him with many proposals. In that, he just chose a young man whose broad brow indicated some intelligence. So he explained to Bennett that he could discover an absolute and resolute human being without a soul. And he was confirmed by Bennett, that is, he was appointed as the young fellow in the scientific editorial department of Bennett's journal. The second inventor gave a petition about having an idea of moving the whole city in a single block. As a demonstration, the town of Saf, situated 15 miles from the sea, would be transformed into a seaside resort. So Francis Bennett attracted by this project, and he agreed to take a half share in it. Francis Bennett sat in an easy chair in the audition room to hear the proposals. Pressing a button, he communicated with the central concert. Then he was charmed on a series of delicious harmonic algebraic formulae of great masters. So it was the time for his family. During his meal, phonotelephonic communication was tuned to speak to Edith. Edith told him that she was leaving to Centropolis. Who is Edith? Bennett's wife. So she was leaving to Centropolis the very moment by tube or aero train. He confirmed her arrival at Centropolis at 11:59 p.m. according to Centropolis time. So these submarine tubes travels from Paris in 295 minutes than the aero trains traveling at 600 miles an hour. So Francis Bennett felt tired and went for a bath before going to bed. He touched the button and got ready for bath. So let's see the conclusion of this story. So this story brings out the fact that as long as humans aspire and work hard, there will be developments and innovations in this world. Smoke-free vehicles and machines that would instantly do what you desire will come forth. Therefore, humans will achieve maximum heights in the field of science and technology for sure. Students, I hope you have understood this lesson. Students, for your better understanding, I have attached a video. Kindly watch it.
A Day of an American Journalist in 2889 is a wonderful writing from Jules Verne. When you read this, you will really enjoy and astonish about the writing of Jules Verne. Some of the interesting things in this story I'll share you. One thing is, this story is set up in 2889. We can't imagine within this. Can you imagine he is not a writer of 19th or 20th or 21st century. He has written this in 18th century itself. Many science fiction things are included in this story. Number one is the story starts with 25th July 2889. The main character in this is Francis Bennett and his wife is Edith. she travels to Paris, France, and he is missing her. And after some days, he wants to talk with her. Immediately he opens up phonotelephotic lens, which is a wonderful lens where he could see her on mirror and he can talk with her like talking lively. This is a wonderful thing which is inside the story. And number 2 is the communication between different planets. Here we communicate with the people of the earth, but in this fiction story he had written like communicating with the other planets. The hero asks like, do you have any mails or something from other planets? And he replies like, the reporters reply that we have communication from the planet Mercury. And he also talks about a new planet in this. The name of the new planet is Gandhini. And the communication between different planets really astonishes one if you go and study this. And next thing is about the mechanized room, which he tells is like when one enters into the mechanized room, automatically he'll get dressed up and combing and everything, putting shirts and all the things happen by robots. This is also really interesting thing which is not possible now also. And another thing is the supply of the food through tubes. You can get the food and eat it. That is really amazing. And another thing which is interesting among in this is about the travel. We travel through car, bus and other things. But here a new kind of vehicle called aero car is introduced in this. The aero car travels on the road and immediately travels on the space and lands within a few seconds. Is really amazing. And at the end of the story he finishes with like the hero Francis Bennett talks with Edith and asks, when are you going to come back? And she replies like, from France I'm going to come through tubes within some seconds. And all these are really interesting. I'm going to show you in this video few of the interesting things in the stories through video collage. Watch it and enjoy.
Students, now it's time for assignment. Look at the following questions. So this is your paragraph answer. Learn this paragraph well and write this paragraph one time. And here comes the following questions, that is, rearrange the following sentence in coherent order, which comes for 5 marks in your public exam. I will explain you how to write the answer for this. So here is your question. You can see 5 points like A, B, C, D in this first question. You have to read out the sentence and you have to rearrange this sentence in the coherent order. That is, in the supplementary you have to find out which sentence comes first and which sentence comes next. So I have attached another question also. So you have got 2 rearranged questions. So example, I would say the answer like Francis Bennett was in a bad temper. Maybe that may be your first sentence of your supplementary. The next sentence would be why the reason was the absence of his wife with him. So like this, the answer comes like C, B, A, D in this way. So my dear students, submit the assignment before 6 p.m. on Thursday. Thank you. Students, I hope you have understood this lesson and enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye and take care.